welcome to another episode of Love from a Distance, where we turn away from the chaos in the world and focus on the love in our hearts. Our next guest is White House correspondent, CNN political analyst, DC Bureau Chief for American Urban Radio Networks, author, speaker, and a supermom. She has a unique vantage point as the only Black female reporter covering urban issues from the White House, a post she has held since the late 90s. Her position as a White House correspondent has afforded her unusual insight into the racial sensitivities, issues, and political struggles of several of our nation's presidents. Here to help us unknot some of the current social and political issues that are all entangled with COVID-19 is April Ryan. April. Hello, 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 hello.
Welcome. Where's April? I don't see April. I see some pretty lady. Where is she?
I had to get pretty for you. I had to get pretty for you, Queen Iyanla and Queen Tina. Thank you.
Every time I've seen you, you have looked beautiful. So. Yeah.
She got her headshot makeup on.
I did it myself in COVID. I've learned how to do my makeup and my hair now. I've taken time. Yes.
Girl, how you doing with the lashes? Because me and the lashes, we still don't get along.
I have an instrument that I use now. And
I can't use that thing, April.
And you have to close your eye and you have to make sure that the glue is tacky. Close the eye and put it on and then play with it.
Well, that means that the eye that's open, you can see out of it.
Yes, that's right. That's true. That one eye, and you switch it out.
No problem. The other day, I was doing like this.
But you know what, Iyanla, I actually have thought that would be a great invention. You know, just one eyelash, one eyeglass. That you can hook on your ear so that you can put your eyelashes on and then switch it.
It's April. First let me say how, I love you from a distance and everything else. But how proud I am of you.
Oh my goodness.
I watch you sometime. Well, I haven't seen you in a while because you don't want to be out there with them corona people, but I watch you.
I was on CNN this morning.
Okay, but not in that thing that they do every day.
At the White
But
House.
I've watched you for years and years and years. And how you handle it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that to you publicly.
Thank you.
I am so proud of you, and very often the only woman of color in that space.
Well, thank you. And it's humbling to hear that from you and Tina. I'm going to tell you, my mother has gone to glory. She's been gone for about 13 years. And my father transitioned this world a couple years ago. And all I can hear them saying is, do not sully the family name. Do not embarrass.
Shame me. Don't shame.
Yes. But one thing my mother told me as a child, and if your mother is consistent, you remember her teachings and her ways, even though the body is gone, the spirit is still here. I remember her saying, as a child, it's not what they call you, but what you answer to. Right. And that was something Dr. King said. And they've called me many names over the last couple of years. And I've had to get that tough skin. I heard you talking to Bakari. That was an amazing interview. But, I've called on some prayer warriors. I've called on Iyanla. And I needed some build up at times. But the community helped me continue to be April and stand and understand who I am. And it's been a challenging time, and it's a challenging time now for the country. And we're seeing this. I was one of the first under attack and under this administration. I'm just going to call the truth out. And now we're seeing it more and more. The deflection onto the press or onto Barack Obama or onto Dr. Fauci.
Yeah.
To deflect from the coronavirus, all because of an election. This is a time that we have to, I implore everyone to use critical thinking.
Yes.
We are still in a deadly time, no matter how many states open up nail salons, hairdressers, and bowling alleys. There's still a deadly time. I am still in the midst of COVID. I am not going to the White House right now. I am one of those people who unfortunately have those underlying issues that would be as exacerbated by COVID-19.
By somebody not wearing a mask in your presence and putting spittle drops in your environment. Call it out. Call a thing a thing.
Speaking with an open, they say if you open your mouth even wider than if you talk loudly, it's more of a chance versus speaking quietly with a closed mouth. So yes, and if you notice from February to March how it's evolved as they're learning. And now there are more people who have come in contact with it at the White House. People at the White House have now. And now you have to have a test every day. And that test, the crazy thing about it is that test is only 49% accurate.
Accurate, that's right.
And it's going to go all the way up to your brain for 3. I can't do that. and I just can't. So I'm still working from home. I'm still talking to leaders, policy makers, and still putting the news out. And I implore everyone, please use your critical thinking, because this is still a deadly time. People still need to wear their masks and their gloves, still wipe down surfaces, wash your hands at least 10 times a day. This is still a deadly time. Don't be fooled into believing that this is a win.
Yeah, no. And it's not to be afraid, but to be wise.
Absolutely.
Right. Not about fear, it's about wise.
And
right?
informed. And informed.
Because they don't know where it came from. They don't know where it came from. And now, go ahead, Rachel.
They're saying a market. I know they're saying a market in China with a monkey, or some people are trying to say it's a lab. Either way, and then some people are saying now it was here before they even found the first cases.
That's right.
So we don't know, but what we do know is it's deadly.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is we have to listen to the scientists. It's unfortunate in this day, a day that's so critical, we cannot look to the leader of the free world as the source of information for us to live or die. We have to rely on the experts versus the president of the United States. And I'm not saying that out of upset with the president, out of anger with the president. I'm saying this out of fact. Gallup and the Knight Foundation just concluded a study last week on misinformation about the coronavirus. 68% of the respondents found that the social media had the biggest impact on misinformation. Number 2 at 54% was President Donald John Trump.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah. So, anybody that tell me to drink bleach one time, they don't ever get the opportunity to tell me nothing else to do. That's why I said, even if they get the vaccine this year, I'm not taking it because I don't want to glow in the dark, and I don't want a penis growing out my ear.
That's right.
You're going to wake up one morning, you're going to have a penis.
You're not thinking something that they have just rushed to market.
No.
For financial gain.
Yeah, and his internal poll numbers, as we're going into this election in November for president, for possibly him a second term, possibly for Joe Biden the first term, his internal poll numbers are dropping. They're not where they used to be. And there is fear in that White House. They're claiming a victory at this moment because they're opening up much of the nation, even if it's on a limited basis. But people are still dying. About 90,000 people have died so far in this country. Over 1 million have tested positive. And those numbers aren't even accurate because there's so many people who never got a test.
Hospital. Right.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So
I have a friend who's a respiratory therapist, and she said 2 days ago that probably 4 or 5 days after the reopening, they started to have an uptick in cases again. And they are expecting that 2 weeks from now, they will be overwhelmed.
That's when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So the thing is, boost your immune system, because this instrument that we call a body was created in such a divine and miraculous way. Boost your immune system. Garlic, turmeric, elderberry, boost your immune system, even if you have an underlying condition. Breathe, people. The thing wants your lungs.
Mm.
I've been teaching breath, come in, come breathe, yeah? Get your body just moving. Yep. Because the people that I've spoken to that have experienced it said two things. Number one, it is dark.
Yes.
They describe it as a dark energy. They don't describe pneumonia or flu. This thing has a spirit, okay? So we want to protect ourselves mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
That's right.
Mentally, do your critical thinking, do your research, pay attention,
Yes.
Forget your opinions, get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally, eliminate fear. Stop with the fear. Spiritually, your prayers, your affirmation, all the stuff we talked about with Bakari is so important, in addition to listening to people like you, April, and doing our research and getting the information. Because I ain't going out like that personally.
And I get every day, we need you at the White House. I said, I'm sure you do. I said, but why don't you go in my stead? No one wants to do that. And people don't realize, I saw beautiful freedom and I can't wait to see peace. People don't, I think the next dog, I love that. Call it out, call out what you want. Yeah. Maybe I'll call it love. So anyway, but no, I believe that at the end of the day, we need to really look at us as people, our community. We are a community that has had the highest numbers of negatives in every category since our inception here in this country. And 400 years later, things haven't changed and it's worse during a deadly time. We're the ones, that's my dog, Sapphire, forgive me. We are the ones.
Oh, Sapphire. That's my birthstone.
Mine too, yes, September. We are the ones who are on the front lines. We are the ones who are exposed to it. We are the ones who are the fire, the police, the first responders, the truck drivers, the grocery store stockers, shelf stockers. We are the ones who are dying from this or getting it. We are Flint. We are Detroit. We are Milwaukee, who the first 8 patients that died were Black. Yeah. The numbers are astounding as it comes to our community. So more so than anything, we need to be prepared. And I get so upset watching these videos when you see people with a bunch of people in their houses or parties or what have you, no masks, no nothing. And I saw one day a grandmother coming down spraying Lysol. I'm like, what's Lysol gonna do? I'm like, I'm like, this is not Donald Trump. Please don't. I'm like, an injection of Lysol or Clorox. No, it's not going to work.
Get you some grain alcohol. I spray everything. I spray myself. I spray the doors. I spray everything with some grain alcohol. Yeah. And the other thing is, April, that we're so locked in on this, but there's so much other stuff going on that nobody's talking about. Here's where my brain is. That the World Health Organization has been defunded by the United States. And when there's a problem in Africa, the first people in there are the World Health Organization. Ain't nobody talking about that.
Right. So let me say this. I talked to Benny Thompson, the Congressman Benny Thompson, the head of Homeland Security Committee in the House. He says that he has many documents from world organizations, to include the World Health Organization, dated December 2019, warning of this.
Yes. Yeah.
The World Health Organization warned of this, and now we're defunding them.
Yes.
There's an interesting connection there.
That ain't interesting, it's wicked.
You can say that, but I'm saying, because I got to go back to the White House after all this is over. But no, there is an interesting connection there. And then on top of that, we have an election, and everything is open now. Everything, we are, and don't believe that we are in a recession. For 30 plus million people to file for unemployment over the last couple of months. People are hurting financially. Hourly wage workers who want to go back to work. It's health over the economy. But even if you have to go to work, make sure you're healthy. But once again, the mindset of the president is that this is a win to get people back. We are not recessed. We are depressed. These numbers are depression numbers.
That's right. That's right. You better say it, but we don't understand. They're not saying that because, you know, it hasn't been 2 consecutive months.
No, this is not the typical analysis of what a recession looks like. GDP is, you've got luxury brands like Neiman Marcus filing for bankruptcy, J. Crew, J.C. Penney, every community, every life brand, every social economic group has been touched and affected by this.
Yeah, and this money that they're pouring out, you know, there's a story out about a young man who got $2 million for the PDP money for a business he didn't even have.
Oh my.
April, I applied for $75,000 so I could keep my staff employed.
Your 106 member staff.
Didn't.
And you know why?
Denied?
You know why? He probably had a relationship.
No more money.
He probably, the first round, and this, the devil is in the details on this for these PPPs.
Yes.
Small business is the engine of this country.
Yeah.
We all have, it's your business, but we all have a hustle and may employ some people. And my doctor wanted to keep her staff when she applied. She couldn't get it.
Nope.
The first round. And I'm going to tell you this. We found out, I talked to the Fair Housing Alliance. I've talked to various people from so many different components of the society that's helping to create with Congress the next bill to help give the money, be it stimulus check and a PPP. But they were not allocating a lot of the money in our communities.
No, not at all.
They gave the money to the big banks. And the problem is we don't have relationships with those big banks like some of the big boys have.
Yeah.
So we have to now go to our community banks. We have to go to credit unions and pray that we dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and they will look at it. Yeah. So, the way I'm understanding the second round, there's still some money left from the second round.
They're giving it to agriculture. They're giving it to the farmers.
But let me say this as well. So with any other loan, this is what's crazy to me. They have all the stats and all the data. But on this, the PPPs, they did not have the stats on race. They did not require stats on race or on gender. Right. So minority and women-owned businesses lost out. And they're trying to figure out piecemeal who got the money. We're not getting the money.
Yeah.
Very few people I have talked to who are women and who are minorities receive that money.
Well, I know Steak and Shake got $10 million. I couldn't get $70,000.
Oh, Ruth Chris did too. If you want a good steak, you can still go get a good steak.
Yeah, they got $20 million. But let's talk about
they gave it back.
Let's talk about some of the other stuff that's going on, April, because I know this week, I believe, there was just a tragic killing of a 26-year-old African-American EMT worker.
Breonna Taylor.
First line worker.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Iyanla, that is tragic. This woman, they went to the wrong, they got the wrong person, went in the house, and long story short, they killed her. And then the police told her mother, she was looking for the child, sent her to the hospital, the child was killed in the house. Sent the mother on a whole, it didn't have to happen. Breonna Taylor, an EMT worker, helping people, and tired, just doing her thing, and then go home, and they got the wrong person. And they broke into the house. They didn't have to break into the house.
They had a no-knock warrant.
Right, no knock warrant. Her boyfriend was there. It was her boyfriend, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, her boyfriend was there. And he responded. You don't just jump and break down a door. He responded. And she got caught in the hail of fire. And the woman died, and they sent the mother to the hospital saying, oh, go to the hospital and look for your child. The child was dead in the house.
Oh, that's right.
And this is on the heels of Ahmaud Arbery.
Yes.
And we're seeing other people go in and out of this house in this Georgia and Brunswick, in the Brunswick neighborhood, go in and out of this house, and they didn't have anyone chase them down.
No.
And in the midst of this, race is still a factor. And we're seeing an uptick. Breonna Taylor is not the only person.
No question.
We're seeing an uptick at a time like this in police-involved abuses and killings of us.
Yeah.
Be it Breonna Taylor going at the no-knock warrant, going in to the house, and this woman, and it was the wrong person, the wrong place.
Wrong house.
Wrong house.
Right.
Right.
Let me explain just briefly how you get, because that was my beat, criminal law. A no-knock warrant is when you say you have sufficient evidence.
Evidence, that's right.
To substantiate, you don't need probable cause. You have a sufficient evidence to substantiate the presence of criminal activity. The judge will give you a no-knock warrant, meaning that you are assuring them that if you can get into this place, you're going to secure an arrest. So they got a no-knock warrant, meaning even if they had gone to the right house, they could have bashed in the door and just went in. They went to the wrong house.
They got the wrong person. A woman who was helping people. She was tired. She was a giver.
And the person they were looking for, as I understand it, was already locked up.
Yes. Ben Crump said that this week. And the bottom line is, when does it stop? And we are at a place where we're going back to this piece that we heard in the Obama administration, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And people are like, I don't want to hear that all lives matter. Yes, but when you see a consistent pattern of people being shot and killed for no reason, be it vigilante or be it police involved, the abuse is consistent and persistent on a community that's already suffering. Black Lives Matter. And
but it gotta matter to us too. We gotta matter. One of the things that I teach people is I matter. What I think matters, what I speak matters, how I live matters. I matter. Got to get to the I matter so that we can come into the we as healthy as possible.
But you said something so poignant with Bakari earlier, that everybody marched and then there was some kind of disconnect. And there's a disconnect. I think we feel comfortable. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was the fact that we had a black man and a black woman in the White House, and we're driving a Tesla. Well, we were before Corona, and we were wearing our red bottoms before Corona. And we think we've arrived and we've reached the mountaintop, but the struggle continues. We are still economically depressed.
Yes.
Education. Our children who are going to public schools right now.
Yeah.
This year's a wash.
Yeah.
We are depressed in every area. And we don't feel that sense of dis-ease in the spirit. I'm not talking about the disease of Corona, but I'm talking about the dis-ease in the spirit to change the situation. Even though, some of us are still wanting to stay home, there are ways that we can protest that can make a difference, and we choose not to.
Yeah.
And it's one of those ways, April. What's one of those ways?
Don't buy nothing on Amazon for 48 hours. Nothing. Don't spend a dime.
You know what? That economic, and I hate pointing, I'm sorry, but I'm like, you're preaching Sunday, I'm pointing. Preach, sister, preach.
But we need options,
Right, so the economics of it all. Remember there was a time, when we didn't have King Day, they told us, don't buy.
That's right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
But now on King Day, people are like, I'm going to get the King sale.
That's right.
And people are wanting to buy. There are still, I'm going to go buy. We are powerful. We are one of the biggest blocks of consumers there is. The only way people listen and really listen is if the squeaky wheel gets oiled. And how do we squeak to make them listen? We're already economically having a problem. Show them a little bit more hurt.
Yeah.
Show them the power. They don't pay attention to us on the Hill because we don't come bearing our money, showing our green. We are all the same because we're green. If we don't come with the green, they're going to push you to the side.
That's right.
It's not about black or white. It's about green. That's the color that people see. So where I am, I think it needs to be an economic piece. There also needs to be a coming together. If you can't go out and march, flood the internet, flood the phones, call your Congress people, call your city council people. There needs to be, like it was back in the 60s, the 50s and the 60s, the mothers, and Bakari was talking about the men need to stand up. The mothers, what they would do if they couldn't march, they'd give the home to Harry Belafonte and John Lewis to sleep on the pallets, and Dr. King, and go in the yard and get the tomatoes and tomatoes and feed them for their journey to freedom.
Yes.
So we need to collectively come in. Well, if I can't do this, you can make posters. If I can't do this, you can do the flyers on the internet. If I can't do this, you can get the people, galvanize the people to march with the mask. You can get the mask, you can get the gloves, and then you can go on the internet and just keep bombarding it. It's got to be some kind of shutdown in the economics. I don't know where it is, but we are the ones who originated the blueprint. And I say this not as an advocate, but someone who sits in this unique perch, who sees how communities have picked up this blueprint and have been successful, and it's our blueprint.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have dropped it.
Well, what happened was, and maybe because I spanned some of these generations, and if I hadn't been paying attention, it would have got me too. But that bridge between the 70s and the 80s.
There was a lull.
Yeah, well, what it was the movements of the 60s and 70s had died down.
Right.
You know? And
because
then
we got civil rights and we got voting rights.
Yeah. And so now we're moving into the 80s, and we're considered a little more acceptable. And it was easier to be accepted into the big group than to be affiliated and struggle with the smaller group, the other group, that no longer really now had a focus. The 80s kind of took us out of the focus. And so by the time we got to the 90s and we're accepted and we can get red bottoms and we're spending $6 billion a year on hair. Okay, and now we got our green contact lens. Ain't nobody talking about Africa no more. Ain't nobody talking about civil rights. Don't nobody want to hear about no dogs and hoses and none of that. Who was talking about that stuff? So now we're in acceptance. You know, people are upset today about all of the things that we were taught to idolize are gone. The fame is gone. The fashion is gone. And Oprah said it, and when I talked to her, she said, I'm looking at all these clothes and these shoes and these purses, and don't none of this mean nothing no more. Because if the store don't have no toilet paper, even I, Oprah Winfrey, can't go get no toilet paper.
That's a rough one.
Yeah, so it's that 80s lull when we didn't really have anything to focus on, and we were aspiring to be where we had been shut out of, It's like we were deprived and now we're in. But we don't have to look that far. I remember in the early 2000s, what is the auction house in DC? And they were getting ready to sell off some very significant
the African memorabilia.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Tom Joyner shut it down. Yeah. Tom Joyner and Tavis Smiley on the radio shut it down. That
people rose up.
Yes, we can still do that.
Yes. And Iyanla, from your work, and we don't have tolerance for discomfort anymore.
Yes.
We absolutely
punks.
Oh, that's a strong word.
But it is. I'm going to say that we all know what it's like to sort of avoid that Pandora's box that we think is inside. And so you start running from it. Yeah. And buying things and living outside of yourself is a great way to run from it. And I think we need to be reminded that all progress comes with some discomfort, even the progress of one's own transformation. And so we need to be willing to sidle up to a little discomfort, both as individuals and as a community. Because if we aren't willing to be uncomfortable, if we're not willing to stop buying, if we're not willing to look at ourselves and make new choices, we're going to get the same old story.
So I want to give
marginalized story.
I want to give you guys a story that Harry Belafonte gave me. And it was in that moment, it was after the election of Donald John Trump. We all remember that day, that night, when we knew that Donald John Trump won. I remember 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 or 3 o'clock, watching Hillary Clinton give her concession speech. And a lot of people were in the fetal position for months. I mean, they were in fetal position after inauguration. But during that time between the election and inauguration, I talked to Harry Belafonte. And I said, sir, what do you say to people who just can't seem to find their way, who are literally in the fetal position and crying, scared, fearful of what's to come? He said, this is the greatest time. And I looked at him, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, sir, I'm like, he's got it all together. But I'm like, wait a minute. He said, no. He said, you're too young to understand, but I'm gonna tell you, I walk with Du Bois and ropes. And he said, Du Bois said, look, when there is great discomfort, when there's great angst, that's when change comes, because people rise up then. And I was like, okay.
Unless they're punks.
Okay, but let me tell you something. And he kind of went to that after the election. He was shocked. After the inauguration, he was shocked because he said he was surprised that the people didn't keep it going. Remember the women's movement, they were marching the day after. And it's a prime example of how rising up in mass makes a difference. They don't ever respond to anything at that White House unless you embarrass them in any way. Those numbers the next day after inauguration dwarfed the numbers for inauguration.
Yeah.
Sean Spicer made his first appearance that day, that next day, that Saturday, in that ill-fitting suit, talking about the numbers, how great they were, bigger than, that was his first lie we heard, from him. But they were upset because people got together.
Yeah.
And they marched.
Yeah.
And they screamed.
Yep.
And they made noise, and they were consistent for a while, and it died down.
Let me define punks, because I don't want people to think I'm calling them names.
And we're going to have to move on.
Poor understanding negates knowledge.
Yeah.
Poor understanding negates knowledge.
Yes.
And when people have a poor understanding of what's at stake, a poor understanding of their power, it negates the knowledge that's required to take the next most appropriate steps.
Yes.
So when I say punks, I'm not talking about the street level, kind of thing. I'm talking about when we have poor knowledge of what's at stake because we're distracted and we're not paying attention and we're not listening, and they don't call on April all the time, and we don't buy Bakari's book, and we don't check out the young people. We have a poor understanding, and it will therefore negate the knowledge that we need to set ourselves up to do what's required. That's the kind of punk I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's very cerebral.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
But it's what happens. We have a poor understanding. We think if we're comfortable in our job and we have the Tesla and the red bottoms, it's them.
Right.
No.
I did it. I didn't stand on the shoulders of anyone.
Everyone listening gets to ask themselves if they are a punk. Do they have a poor understanding of
gating knowledge?
Yes. And so I think that-that's a wonderful way to say thank you to April for having joined us. You have expanded, our thinking, and listeners, maybe it's time for us to get uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Iyanla, is there anything that you'd like to share before I close it out? I'm willing to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for a whole bunch of people to get uncomfortable with.
We've got to.
Here's the thing, I got my marching orders 34 years ago. When the Creator reminded me that I was a teacher. The teacher's not about putting in, a teacher's about drawing out. And the work that I really do, that I love doing, is really getting people right with themselves so that they understand it's okay to be uncomfortable.
That's right.
Because when you're comfortable, you're not growing.
That's
it's
right.
okay to call a thing. Call some stuff out. It's okay to take a risk. So, and even poor knowledge about what's important. We have, a lot of us have poor knowledge about what's important.
Yeah.
Here's what I know. This is our time. I'm with Baba Belafonte. I'm with this is it. This is such a divine time. They can't deny the disparities of healthcare in our community anymore. They can't deny it. They can't deny the lack of access to healthy food. They can't deny it. So if we just let it go on and don't challenge it, don't take the next most appropriate steps to demand and require, then this opportunity that they're calling a crisis will escape us. We've got to stand up. We have to.
All right.
What's the saying that you say? You say, I am not my brother's keeper. No, I am my brother. I am not my sister's keeper. No, I'm not my sister. We got to watch out one to another, get the legal, get the economic, and get the shoes out there in the street and get on social media. End of story.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Everyone in the house.
Bow to you, Miss April. I just want to call you Rachel. I don't know why.
But you love me anyway. Rachel or April, you love me. You know what?
I didn't tell your snake story. I held your
Oh my God, thank you for not telling the snake story. Oh, I put a lot of snake repellent around the house. Oh my God.
So
that's another story.
In the house, you have heard it here today. Get uncomfortable. Realize that you matter. Realize that you have to be accountable to the fact that you matter. Realize that going to sleep is going to actually put us in our graves. So we thank you, April, for having joined us. Iyanla, Vanzant, it is always a wonderful time spending this time with you. And to everyone in the house, thank you for joining us again, for bringing electricity to our live virtual studio audience. We hope that you join us here each week. Tell your friends about us and grow with us as a part of the Love from a Distance family. Until next time, remember, I matter, you matter, share the love, be accountable, get uncomfortable.
Yeah.